Hello, humans, and welcome to another episode of Gen X Gamer. I got your breakfast. That's right. You need another hit. You need another hit of the Gerard story. I haven't said that since the Amico days. Ever since the Amico days, we haven't had a story like this where, it really has overtaken the community, as far as discussions and what's out there. And guys, what makes this story interesting is that Gerard is a creator that has had many collaborations, has touched many other creators during his endeavors, because he's been doing this for a while, number one. Number two, he's made a lot of friends in the YouTube space, right? And he gained the respect of a lot of YouTubers. And because of that, some YouTubers, especially the ones that cover this kind of space, have treated the story differently. Now, I don't mean to single out Pat Contri here, because he's not the only one. Okay, he's not the only one. This just makes it easier, right, to point out what's going on here, right? This is quiet condemnation, right? This is what these guys are doing, right? They're doing the least possible thing they can do in order to both cover their ass and condemn this guy at the same time, because they know, right, how forgiving a lot of people are when people make good content, right? And for us, it's just a discussion and to see and to look at you guys, and maybe some of YouTubers will listen to this, right, and start self-reflecting. Not that they would, because money really guides everything that a lot of these guys do. But they should know that we're looking and listening. The reason I'm talking about Pat Contri here is because he put out a written statement, which makes it easier to break down and to show you, right, the double standards that a lot of these YouTubers use when it comes to one of their own. When it comes to YouTubers that create and creators that cover this kind of space, when it has to do with somebody that they know, right? And they want to have it both ways. They want to have a quiet condemnation where they do the least amount of damage possible to their friend, and at the same time cover their ass so they can say they called it out. Right? There's different ways of calling things out. Look, guys, you can be a great creator, right? Pat Contri can be one of the greatest YouTubers out there, and at the same time, he can handle this wrong, right? And this is what we're talking about here. I know he's got a couple of defenders that come by the channel. And let me tell you what, guys, you're always welcome here, because you make the conversation go, right? If we all agreed the same thing, right? If we all agreed, then it wouldn't be much of a conversation. It would be sort of like the comments left on this post, where, all the comments that pretty much take them to task are gone, and all you have is a bunch of ball washing. Everybody's ball washing Pat on this statement. Well, let me break it down for you so you guys can see what reasonable people that don't see the world through the eyes of YouTuber or YouTube land are looking at. So let's read his statement. And before, you grill me like if I was a donkey eating corn reading this. English is my second language, okay? So have some patience with me here. My statement on the Open Hand Foundation controversy. When I was first learned that the Open Hand Foundation had not donated to any beneficiaries in the 9 years of its existence, despite many public statements to the contrary, like many of you, I was upset. Now, I'll start right away and show you how this is phrased, right? The Open Hand Foundation statements. Well, who is the Open Hand Foundation? And who was actually making the statements? Pat. It was your boy. It was your boy. So he's framing this exactly, right, like Gerard should have handled this. If Pat was a better friend, a closer friend, I should say, to Gerard should have called him right away and say, Pat, you're in the space. How would you handle this? Well, right here how Pat would have handled it. He would say, the foundation, right? He would have laid it as the foundation is responsible for this. I was just saying what the foundation told me. If he was smart, right, he would have listened to his lawyer. He would have listened to people like Pat that operate in the space, but he didn't, right? Because it was Gerard, right? Anybody else would have said Gerard, because he was the one looking straight at the camera, knowingly lying, according to him, since 2021. And you have to take him at his word for that. Do I believe him? No. I believe that he knew about this way, way before, as most reasonable people do. Only YouTubers are taking Gerard's word face value. No one else, right? Because I sure as hell don't, and most reasonable people would not believe somebody that has already proven that he has lied, has admitted to lying, right? And then all of a sudden he wants you to believe you in some of the most critical parts. All right, let's continue reading here. I have known Gerard for over a decade, have run 10 of my own charity gaming events to benefit organizations like AmeriCares, Feeding America, Child's Play Charity, Children's Miracle Network, and the local Randy Children's Hospital. The squeaks back there from my daughter, guys. Been changing diapers all day. Now, with these charities that Pat is running here, that makes him a colleague. Makes him a colleague in the business. Not only him, but other YouTubers. Now, all these YouTubers, guys, want us to believe, want reasonable people to believe that Gerard did this in a vacuum and they never spoke to their other colleagues on how they were doing business. Well, we'll get to that right now because there's some particulars that we need to go over. This was always my responsibility, as I took it very seriously, as the public entrusts you as a steward to help raise money for good causes with no set expectation of reward. It is a sacrifice by those who help out on the event for a good cause, but the benefit outweighs the personal time and energy invested. Gerard himself graciously participated in a few of these events in 2016, 2018, and 2019. All right. First, Pat, let's define gracious participation. What did that entail behind the scenes, right? These are reasonable questions that people would ask that you don't address here, right? If it wasn't Pat, if it was anybody else, two people involved in the same thing, somebody investigating this, right? If Pat was doing his job on another YouTuber, this is probably what he would be asking, right? What does that entail? As you know, Pat, your boy made some statements here regarding what seemed to be acceptable as far as expensive for charities to spend money on, right? Gerard mentioned fees in his video like security, right? Expenses, appearance fees, which is one of the most jarring ones, right? As well as, food, drink, travel, all the other stuff, right? Now, is this commonplace, Pat? Because you're like a first-hand witness to this. This is your colleague. He has participated with you. So we need to ask those questions, right? You would be the one to know. Did Gerard ask for any appearance fees? Did you have to pay any plane tickets? Did you pay for his food, right? Did he ask you for what kind of hotel he was going to stay in? Were you paid in any of these events? Did you partake of the same things that he did? What kind of expenditures were spent on these appearances? All right. These are reasonable things that somebody looking at the story would ask. For that, I am thankful. Over the past 10 plus years, I have seen Gerard evolve as a content creator, as a business person. Okay, let's put this into perspective here. I'm going to give Pat the full honor of saying that he's a great YouTube creator. Over the past 10 years, he's been successful or what have you. And I will give him that he is an expert, right, in content creation. And he is a better judge of character than I am when it comes to that. And I will take him at his word for it. But what I can't take him on his word for is the business person part of it. Because YouTubers see business from their own bubble. And let me tell you guys, any YouTuber out there who has ever put their hand out and asked for support on something they couldn't accomplish on their own is no business person. Any business person that would ask the public for support in that way, put out his hand, right, and ask for money, doesn't know shit about business. Plain and simple, right? So he couldn't be a judge of that. Because wasn't it, 3 years ago, Gerard was asking for money because he had, he's got the 20 mouths to feed, right? He was asking for money on YouTube, right? So he did not evolve as a business person, okay? Those are facts. They're not opinions. Go out in the business world and tell them that part of your operation is begging for money. They're going to run you out of town, right? That's not, I don't think that's a controversial statement to make, right? And how has he evolved as a business person? You know, as far as we can tell, the only thing he's done is being a bullshitter, right? And you chastise many for doing the same thing. All right, here we go. Let's continue. I thought so highly of Gerard that I even asked him to write the foreword to one of my books. Therefore, when I saw Gerard starting to run his own gaming charity event, I felt proud of his growth. Again, positive words to describe somebody who did probably the worst thing, right, in recent YouTube history. This is worse than WADA. This is worse than in television. This is worse, right? And here he is writing positive things about the guy, right? So two things can be true, right? This guy could have done positive things, just like Pat does positive things, and is completely biased on his coverage of this event, right? I have donated money to Indie Land events. I have donated physical and digital book prizes to help raise money for Indie Land. And I have promoted Indie Land in good faith over the years as a fellow fundraiser doing the right thing. Fellow fundraiser. He is your colleague, right? Again, are we to believe that you never spoke a single word, you or other YouTubers? Again, we're not singling Pat out. We're using this statement that he put out to ask the questions you would ask of anybody, and to ask the questions of YouTubers that now are hiding, that won't make any statements, right? They just go, oh man, that's too bad or whatever, but they won't go into detail as far as their involvement with these charities. So let's ask, were those donations done as individuals or as a business? Were they tax write-offs? Did Gerard donate to your causes in the same manner, and that's why you feel obligated to him? I mean, those are, questions that one would ask looking at the story, right? I don't think those are out of bounds. Those are normal questions anybody would ask. All of these reasons, continuing, are why revelations surrounding Gerard and the Open Hound Foundation in the past weeks have been troubling and may have affected me more than I would care to admit, right? So let's admit it for you, Pat. You're biased on the story, as well as other YouTubers. You're not the only one, right? And the way you covered the story and made a statement on it is differently than you would for any other YouTuber, right? This right here, if anybody made it, if anybody else made that statement, if anybody would have made it of somebody out of WADA, or anybody would have made it somebody at DK Oldies when you're covering that, or in Television Amico, one of the cult members would have said something like this, you would have crucified them, right? So even if you don't care to admit it, we can see plain as day that there's a clear bias on how you're covering the story, which is kind of sad, right? Because that's not what you usually do. You usually put in good work when you're covering these type of stories. After the news surfaced, I stated that I wanted to refrain from saying anything in public until Gerard could respond out of respect for our past history to hear his side. Again, can you imagine Rich at Review Tech saying this and doing it about somebody that Pat doesn't know? What would Pat say, right? What would Pat say? Crucify him. If Larry Bundy said this about somebody else that he didn't know and it was some other scam, Pat would crucify them. This is not drama or something I wish to simply record and upload to YouTube without some serious thought. Well, it's been more than a month and a half. When are you going to have some serious thoughts on this so you can record that video that you mentioned here? A lot of the, Pat defenders that, see this in a binary say he doesn't have to make a video. Well, he's saying it right here, right? But we just haven't seen the video, right? And in his video, he could have firsthand accounts of what he experienced, right? He could have firsthand accounts. He could, better than anybody or any other YouTubers that participated with him in all these ventures, could give us firsthand accounts of what happens, right? Why do you think they're not giving us that? Do you think maybe some YouTubers took some appearance fees? Maybe some worked as security, maybe some reaped some benefits, maybe some plane tickets. I don't know. These are all things that we can ask questions about. I think any, serious person reading this from afar could ask those questions. Let's continue. These are very serious situation with very serious allegations being made, leading to potential serious legal ramification, and involves someone I know. I believe that personally knowing somebody means that you should hold that individual to a higher standard and not simply ignore to attempt to explain away something that could be very detrimental to the larger community. Well, that appears is what you're doing here. See, the thing with this post that he's making is he's saying all the right things, right? Like this statement here, but let's hold him to this, right? I believe that personally knowing someone means that you should hold that individual to a higher standard. Is that the case here? Because there is no video. The higher standard would be the video that you would make, Pat. A video like for Intellivision, a video for like WADA, a video for like DK Old, for anybody. That is the higher standard, and you're not meeting it here, right? And neither are your other colleagues, right? Because we have plenty of questions when it comes to this, right? And it's this quiet condemnation that I'm talking about, where you say all the right things on paper here, but what are the actions? What is it that he's doing? Is he doing an expose? Is he researching? Is he talking to Mudahar? Is he talking to Carl Jobs, giving them tips on what happened? We don't know. He hasn't made any other statements besides this, and it doesn't say that here. Let's continue, okay? Let's continue, and let's hold Pat to his words. Now that the Open Foundation and Gerard have responded in emails and verbal communication with the YouTubers who investigated the situation in a video, I feel more comfortable stating the following. I'm not satisfied with the response and explanation from Gerard and the Open Hand Foundation. While it is positive that monetary donation has been made to the benefit of dementia research, the fact that it only occurred due to pressure from concerned YouTubers is not acceptable. Now, let's ask this question, right, which is a genuine question. Would he have made the statement if the concerned YouTubers were smaller channels? Right? It's a rhetorical question, guys. We know he wouldn't have done anything. He wouldn't have made a statement, right? He didn't make a statement when Radical Rick was, and others were, putting this guy to task years and years ago, right? It really has to do with the size of the channel, because the size of the channel does affect, right, how people see it. If it's some idiot like me, talking about this, nobody gives a shit. It's not going to get legs, so they just ignore it. But it's Carl Jobs and Mudahar, then you have to make a statement like this. Let's keep going. It is known how long negligent behavior could have gone without such pressure. Unfortunately, the money donated, trusting fans and sponsors has not lost significant buying power over the past years due to inflation, but it has been severely diminished by expenses. I completely disagree. Let's see here. Unfortunately, the money donated, trusting fans and sponsors has not only lost power. Okay, got it. Totaling at least 125,000. That seems to be about correct, guys. That's a fair figure, of which we are not detailed due to nebulous reporting on the Open Hand Foundation's 990 PF filings. Now, Pat, you can help us with that. You have first-hand accounts on how this guy deals, right? Did he ask for anything, right? You would be such a great resource researching that story, but this has affected you more than you care to admit, right? In your own words. All right, this does not even touch on all the lost of critical years of research these donations could have helped fund over the past several years. In my opinion, the response from Javard and Open Hand and the supporting documents are insufficient to explain the negligent behavior of the Open Hand Foundation and deceptive marketing and public statements regarding Indie Land events. All right. Well, all those were made by Gerard. They weren't by anybody else. That's your boy, right? He stood in front of the camera lying. Again, it's your boy you have to hold in task to. He's the face of this organization, right? And it's not being, You're not reporting on this the way you would on anybody else, right? And that really is just what we're talking about here. Now listen to this. I feel I have been defrauded, as I would have never donated money or goods, nor would I ever promoted Indieland events had I known the truth that supporter and sponsor donations were not being given to organizations that could have used them. Look at the statement, guys. Let me ask you as a human being, just if somebody had lied to you, right, and betrayed you in this manner, if one of your close friends and business associate had lied to you, make you look like a fool, right, by not donating the money, and you donating resources, right, and this guy turns out to be a lying, manipulating piece of crap, self-admittedly, right, where's the anger, right? Where's the anger? Why is there praise for Gerard, right, and no absolute anger towards this guy that did this to you? If somebody backstabs you in the real world like this, if somebody uses you, right, like this, wouldn't you be mad as hell, right? Because this guy used you in order to amass large amounts of money, right? Pat the NES Punk is a brand that doesn't stand for scammers. So because you were on his corner, he was even able to raise more money. Because why? Because now he had your seal of approval. That meant this wasn't a scam. And you're not mad. You're not upset in the least bit like most people would, right? You're disappointed. You're affected more than you care to admit, but you're not completely outraged and pissed that he basically shit on your reputation. It doesn't make sense, right? It doesn't make sense to anyone. Some of you feel likely the same. I'm not entirely sure where to go from here. It's very simple, Pat. You do the same thing that you would for any other creator. Let me quote you. I believe personally knowing somebody means that you should not hold that individual to a higher standard, not simply ignore or attempt to explain away something that could be very detrimental to the larger community. Okay? You need to turn that into actions. This post isn't it, Pat. Right? This post is the complete opposite. You're providing cover by doing the least amount of damage to your friend. Right? You should do what you do in other cases. Right? You write all the right things, but what are the actions? And at this point, after a month and a half, even if you do something, isn't it a little too late? Right? Why is everybody else covering this except for you? Let's keep on going. As this situation could take a long time to unwind due to the number of charity events, the high value of donated money, past sponsors, and individuals associated with all of this, not to mention golf events, also ran to benefit Open Hand Foundation, which I have not even touched. Why not? I mean, how much longer is it going to take for you to touch it? Right? You can see the bias here. Again, Pat Contry could be a great YouTube creator, made great videos, and he completely mishandled this and completely have a biased point of view towards his friend. I mean, when are you going to touch upon this, right? You do it for anybody else, right? Why is there this different standard? When it came to Tallarico, man, you were really concerned about retirees and their dogs, right? You had people on the inside giving you notes and all this stuff. But aren't people with dementia more important than dogs, right? Why aren't you holding this son of a bitch to the same standard, right? This is worse than WADA. This is worse than DK Oldies. This is worse than a television. And you personally know people behind the scenes. You can get a lot more information, and you don't. Why are you not holding this guy to higher standards? Let's continue. A lot of people still have questions that need to be sufficiently addressed. Therefore, I echo the calls for the proper authorities to investigate and audit the financials of the Open Hand Foundation to ensure that no misconduct has occurred. Please remember that charities that act responsibly do exist, and other gaming charity events work in good faith for the public's trust. This is a great statement, Pat. It really is. But how are we going to act on it, right? How are we going to act on it? I mean, it's great that you do it. But where's the video that you referred to earlier. It's not there. Wouldn't it make more impact if people saw you pissed that this guy used you in order to raise more funds, in order to get credibility? Well, it's a great statement. But a month after it passed, it happened, still nothing, right? It's a little too late, right? Because what are people going to say now? If you want to do shady shit, just do business with Pat. He's not going to make a video on you, right? That's what people can say with all fairness now. It's been a month and a half. You didn't make it. So if you donate to Pat's charities, if you cozy up to Pat, right? If you collaborate with Pat on his books, you can get away with it with no video from Pat. Do not allow the troubling facts of one charity to tarnish your view of all others. And at the same time, if donating, supporting a charity or event, feel free to do your due diligence to ensure that the money you're giving is being used in a manner that you agree with, regardless of who is hosting the event or running the show. Be well, Pat Contry. Okay, Pat, let's say I feel like donating to your next charity event. I would have a few questions given your past. Okay, let me be very specific here. Your past work as reference, right? So I would ask the questions that I know now because I've been educated regarding these charities with everything that's happened. Pat, what percentage of the money you raise goes to charity, right? That would be one question. Okay, what expenses do you incur that you pass on to the charity during these events, right? That would be another question. And I'm sure you're on the up and up. And this would be not in order to accuse you, but you could use it as a great marker to see what your boy is spending money on, right? Do you pay any guest appearances, right? Are there paid appearance fees like, your friend alluded to? Like Gerard said, right? Are there any travel expenses paid? And better yet, have you participated in any of these events where you were paid appearance fees or where your travel was paid? Was it just coach? What's the going rate for appearance fees anyway? Is charitable entity responsible for food and drink at the event, right? And if so, do they pay for alcohol too, right? And when it comes to the plane tickets, again, what kind of plane tickets are they? Is it a nice hotel? Is it Motel 6? What are we talking, coach? Right? These are just a few questions that get started, guys. Those are the things that reasonable people look at. YouTubers live in a bubble where they can make up the narrative and say whatever they want to say and be correct about whatever they want to be correct about. But this is the real world. These are questions that we have and we would like answered. But guys, in all likelihood, we'll never get the answers to any of this crap. That's why we love it. I'll catch you on the next one. Take care.